Welcome to Three Films and a Podcast, the show where destiny brought together three friends to enhance each other's cinematic journey by watching three new movies in a series of themed rounds. There is no claim of ownership on any film footage used in this episode, as all film footage is owned in its entirety by the copyright holders. And just like every car in Too Fast, Too Furious, this podcast contains spoilers. Enjoy! I'd like you to close your eyes. I'm going to do a visualization exercise. Not really. I'm just kidding. Hello, everyone. I can't steal Matt's bit. I can't steal Matt's bit.
It's a great bit. I was waiting for it. You've got the perfect voice for it.
I should have thought of something. I really didn't. I was in the last second, I was like, oh, what if I steal Matt's bit? But I didn't think it out. Anyways, everyone, welcome to Three Films and a Podcast. My name is Ben Lawhorn, and I'm joined as always by Tyler Beck.
Hello, everyone. I am
birthday
here.
Boy.
I'm excited. Yeah, big night.
Happy birthday.
Last year of my 30s.
Hell yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's party.
Scary.
You're telling me, man. It's been my brain for the last 3 months. Like, oh God.
Yeah. I've been telling people I was 40 for like a year now. So
that's good. Just prep yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And our mysterious man down south, Mr. Matt Weiler. The literal tip of the hat.
I actually don't have a camera to pan up at my face, but
we'll do it in post.
Yeah.
See, this is the stuff people miss when they don't watch the episode.
That's right.
They just
exactly.
Listen. They will not get that at all. I'm happy to have you guys here. For those new to the show, welcome to the movie club. For those returning, welcome back to the movie club. We're happy to have everybody here. You can find us everywhere online at 3 Films Pod. We would appreciate you spreading the word to your friends and family and enemies and lovers and everybody. We're also online at 3filmspod.com, where we have some awesome merch that Matt has designed.
Yeah,
we have some patrons. Look at that. Yeah, you get some cool stickers. Speaking of, if you want stickers, I also have some magnets. And if you want some of those, send us a review on Apple Pods and DM us that you sent it, and we'll send something to you for free. We would really appreciate the reviews, and that means a lot to us. So yeah, thanks everyone for being here with us. Let's just get into the episode. It's just the three of us.
Let's do it.
We're having a Mexican standoff all night long, just the three of us, but I can't wait.
Me gusta.
This summer, what's up?
Just said me gusta.
Me gusta.
Oh, sí.
Indeed.
Oh, sí. Claro que sí.
We went to Incubus the other night, and their opener was Sublime. And I honestly think half the crowd was there for Sublime. I did not realize they had that big of a drawing. Yeah. So when you said Me Gusta, I was like, oh yeah, Sublime. That's cool. But there's a huge Sublime following there for sure.
Wow, that's good. Yeah, I didn't know they were still doing their thing.
How's their frontman, Rome?
He was good. He was digging it. You know, he was just like, hey, I remember hearing this song for the first time. Like, it just feels like whoever that dude was that joined Journey, you know, after their singer passed away. It's just like, yeah, I love this band, and now I get to sing with them. So it's just like,
yeah, I was already karaokeing awesome. These guys.
Yeah.
So
and now I just get paid to do it. So yeah,
that's cool.
He was super entertaining. He was fun.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, along those lines, we are in the middle of our summer trilogies here. We are covering 3 trilogies this summer. At first we entered The Matrix, which was a lot of fun. We just got done with our time in Middle Earth as we did the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And now we're hanging out with our second favorite bounty hunter. I can't put him above Boba Fett, but we are hanging out with the Man with No Name as we do the Dollars Trilogy, starring Clint Eastwood. So we've done trilogies before. If you've listened, last time it was really just chaotic and a lot because we did 9 movies in 3 episodes. We did a trilogy per episode, and it was too much. So this summer we are doing 1 episode for each movie in the trilogy to split up our summer. So it's gone a lot better this time, I'd say, without a doubt. Agreed. It's nice to not have to watch 3 movies for an episode.
3 movies in a week.
Oh,
plus the fans hated it. They were like, why are you packing so much into 1 episode? And we're like, okay, we'll split it up.
Yeah, we hear you.
Can you guys imagine if we had done the Lord of the Rings extended edition in 1 episode? That would have been insane.
Like, we would have broken
12
the internet.
hours. Yeah. Way too much. And just me trying to process, like, I think I saw one of these 3. I didn't understand it all, but yeah. So today we are talking about Sergio Leone's For a Few Dollars More, which is the middle entry into the Dollars Trilogy. Clint Eastwood is back. I think technically it's a different character, but it's like these have all kind of been lumped in together. The last one we did was A Fistful of Dollars, which is basically the spaghetti western version of Yojimbo, which we talked about before. Great movie, check that out. And we got some new but familiar faces in this movie, Lee Van Cleef and Klaus Kinski, for all those Herzog fans out there. So it's kind of cool to see him. Matt, this was your selection, the Dollars Trilogy. So I would love to hear, I guess a little bit maybe like why you picked the Dollars Trilogy and I guess what your experience was with this movie.
Yeah, so I grew up with a movie buff dad, always checking stuff out from the library. And so my exposure to a lot of these earlier movies, which it's crazy to play that game because now thinking about it, the 60s to him is what like the 80s is to us. Yeah. So it's like me getting 80. It's like I just showed Tom Ferris Bueller the other month, and it's like that's his Clint Eastwood movie essentially. So weird to think about that, but he exposed me to a lot of movies, the spaghetti westerns. Saw a lot of Clint Eastwood, and I hadn't revisited them in adulthood. And we had covered Akira Kurosawa. And there's we covered it last episode. So many parallels, not just to the carbon copy of Fistful of Dollars and Yojimbo, but just the way these movies are shot and filmed and paced is just very similar to the way Kurosawa did his samurai films, which were also based on westerns. So it felt right as we went into a new trilogies round since we had covered Kurosawa, it made sense to pull in Clint Eastwood and cover these movies.
Yeah, I mean,
totally.
I think it's been a great choice. I'm excited. This is a first watch for me on all three of these. Tyler, how about you? Was this your first watch?
Yeah, same, man. I guess I'd only seen a few Clint Eastwood movies, period. Like I'd seen Gran Torino. I'd seen some of the stuff he directed. And I think I'd seen The Unforgiven. I don't know, like a long time ago, like it was on TV and I shouldn't have been watching it. And I did one of those sorts of things. But so I was really stoked when Matt chose this trilogy, not only because of the Clint Eastwood of it all. Or I guess not only because of the parallels to Kurosawa, which I enjoyed so much, but because of the Clint Eastwood of it all. Like I knew that he was a huge figure in American pop culture and in American film history. And he still continues to be a big figure for better or for worse in the film industry. And so, I wanted to kind of see what all the fuss was about. And I kind of, to be honest, I kind of get it. It's hard not to compare him to Toshiro Mifune, especially with the first movie. And it's sort of an apples and oranges thing to me. Like I get it. Like this character at the very least is just really cool. He's just, there's just really no other way to put it. He's just a badass. He's just really fun to watch. And Eastwood has the charisma and the charm to pull it off. Apparently there was some legal dust up over the actual character name from this movie to the first movie. And so that's why the character name is different. But I think like the spirit of the character is obviously the same, but I kind of like this idea though. And I'm sure we'll talk about it more in the next episode for Good, Bad, and the Ugly, but I really like the idea of just having the same character, but have it be a different name. It's like a different person, but the same character in different situations.
It's almost like a mythology. Movies. Like
totally.
The story's just a little bit different. Like, what did he do here? What did he do here?
Totally. And, it didn't really dawn on me, if I'm being honest, that it was a different character until the third movie. But then after seeing that, it kind of put everything in perspective. I thought, this is a wanderer. He's in a new town. They're going to call him something different, but it's the same. It's like there's a linear connection between the first two movies. And, apparently that's not the case. Maybe that's how they intended it to be. But regardless, doesn't really matter. I thought it was really fun. I thought it was really cool. Again, the score the score and the sound design, as much as the ADR can be kind of tough, but everything else, just the wind whistling through the prairies, the spurs jingling, the echoing gunshots, like the cartoonishly echoey gunshots. It almost sounds like some of these guns almost sound like that scene in Heat. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so loud and visceral, and just the score backing it all up. It's a lot of fun. It's a real experience to watch these movies. And I said it in the first movie. I said it in the episode for the first of the trilogy, but I'll say it again. You really know you're watching a movie. You're watching a movie, but it just doesn't matter. And I think that's when you can pull that off. That's really cool. You know, because a lot of times, for me personally, I'll get very immersed into a movie, and I almost forget that what I'm doing. You get sucked into it, and you kind of lose your sense of time and self or whatever. But like with these movies, that's not the case, but it doesn't matter because it's just really fun, and I'm just having a blast with these things.
Yeah, one thing I liked about it is, I mean, I had a great time with it. I liked what it built off of the first one, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, or better yet, if you listen to this and you're in the comments, let me know if I'm wrong. We love to be proven wrong on here. But this one had a little bit of that old Western world building where we weren't just in one town. We went to a few different towns. And so you kind of felt a little more immersed in like this Western world, which I thought was nice. I loved the opening scene. I put on Letterboxd, like currently, like as it stands right now, it's my favorite opening of any movie of all time right now.
And this is the one where he stops the train, right? That's the scene you're talking about?
No, this is where it's just a shot of a guy on a horse and then a gun sound.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, wow, okay, here we go. Right. Yeah, I love that. But the train stop was awesome too. But then I also really loved the introduction of that sort of like chime music of the locket. I thought was a really nice touch. Kind of eerie, kind of reminded me of the score of Halloween, the movie.
Oh yeah.
And I just thought that was, man, so cool. Cause like the score is already just like amazing. And to be able to like incorporate something like that into a story like this, I thought was just like a really cool touch.
Yeah. And for it to actually be a plot point in the story itself, like, you know, we're aware of the score, but the characters aren't. But in this instance, like it all kind of ties together, and almost it all just it's like the rug in the dude's house, you know. Really ties it all together. Another thing I thought it was interesting was, and we've talked about this a few times with a couple different trilogies, but I really feel like Leone and the writers of this movie really understood what we liked about the first one so much and just cranked it up just enough more. Like it didn't go way over the top, but I felt like every scene had like an extra second or two of like hard squinty stare, or there was just like 2 or 3 extra like gun standoffs and gun
sweaty
fights
faces.
Sweaty. That everything was just cranked up just a little bit more, just enough that it wasn't like too over the top, but it just felt like they really understood what we wanted and they gave it to us. And a lot of times it can go badly. We talked about it with The Matrix. You know, they guessed, they assumed what we wanted and they assumed incorrectly. And in this time around, they
could go
nailed it.
good, it could go bad, or it could go ugly.
Yes, it sure can.
Well, that's the episode, everyone. Thanks for listening. Yeah, I mean, I echo everything you guys have said. The chime, the locket, I loved quite a bit. I'll talk about it later on in my elevator pitch, but it reminded me a lot. There's an old film from 1931 called M. It's a Fritz Lang movie with Peter Lorre, and the character, you hear whistling basically right before someone's going to die. And it reminded me a lot of this because I feel like the chime, that locket was a lot of, we saw him do that a few times where it's like, once the chime stopped, get your gun. It's like, oh, so this is kind of like the setup here. It's kind of cool to have like a musical cue to it. I hope I wanted to wait to talk about in depth Ennio Morricone till next week, because I think his Good, Bad, and Ugly soundtrack is arguably the best thing he's ever done. So, but this was also another wonderful, like he did great with all 3 of these movies, but I just felt like we should really dive in next week because it's just so powerful what he's done. But I love the soundtrack. I think Clint, like you said, Tyler, it's like everything's just a little more. And I think Clint is as well. I think he's just like kind of fitting into the role a little bit better, which I liked a lot. Like I really enjoyed, A Fistful of Dollars, and we talked about the Yojimbo ripoff of it all and everything. But I also felt like Clint was kind of like a little stiff maybe throughout it. So I just felt like he was much better in this one. That opening scene, like you said, Matt, was so cool. Just that like long shot, just like falling off. Like they set it up so well. All the towns, like the areas here, and introducing a lot of this bandit, I guess, this group, of just like bank robbers and stuff, and just kind of getting to know them really quickly and who they are and what they want. I think this movie does it all really, really well. I thought it was great. Yeah, I think, I want to kind of get into our elevator pitches here because I think a lot of the scenes that we want to talk about are some of the biggest in the movie. For those who are first time listeners, our elevator pitch, the idea behind it is if you had to convince someone to watch this movie and you happen to be stuck in an elevator with them, what scene or moment would you show them on your phone? Probably the way Sergio Leone intended these to be watched, obviously. Yeah. But if you could show them one scene to kind of draw their attention and just be like, this is the thing that really like, that this is like Clint's role. This is, what he's probably known for the best. I'm curious what you guys would choose to show them. Tyler, do you want to go first?
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Yeah, sure, man. So we were talking a little bit before we recorded, a little peek behind the curtain here for you listeners and watchers. And all of us sort of agreed with the thing I put on the document. I will mention this is a movie that's, I don't know what we're calling these, but it's almost like I think we call them a dartboard movie, if you put the timeline of the film out and just threw a dart, you'd probably hit something really cool. I think we mentioned the train scene at the very beginning, the introduction to the Colonel is really cool. But I feel like it's difficult not to pick a scene here that the Colonel isn't in. I don't know if I could have said that in a more confusing way, but I feel like the Colonel has to be in the scene that we mentioned here. And I instantly thought the second I saw the scene I'm about to mention, like that's hands down the elevator pitch. And a lot of it had to do with Matt's criteria. Matt, you typically choose stuff that's, you like to see something that you've never seen in a movie before. And I've never seen anything like this before. We've seen characters be badass. We've seen cool character introductions. We've seen like interesting ways to intimidate people from characters. But the scene where the Colonel walks into the bar and lights his match on the hunchback's back and lights his cigar and that whole thing in his face, like I described it terribly, and that's fine because if you haven't seen it, you have to check it out. There's no way I could just like, even if I described it perfectly, it's like, so what? That doesn't sound that interesting or that cool, but it's fucking awesome. It's so cool. It's so badass, and it's such a really cool way to show how intimidating and tough without effort that the Colonel is. You know what I mean? Like the Colonel is just so effortlessly intimidating in a way that's almost confusing. You know what I mean? Because he kind of comes off as a dandy, like he wears a, like, I don't know, he doesn't seem like a rough and tumble cowboy, he's do you guys remember the old Pace picante sauce commercials?
For sure.
He seems like he came from New York City. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
like he's the guy that the Cowboys sitting around he's the guy that they all sit around and make fun of. But
this stuff made New York City. New York City.
Stranger, I hope you can beat a full house.
He's just, he's an incredible shot. Apparently, Lee Van Cleef claims that in real life he's quicker off the draw than Clint Eastwood is. By like an eighth of a second or something like that. But no, he's just such an incredible marksman, a skilled gunslinger, and just a confident, intelligent character. It's hard not to root for him. And I'm really glad. I thought it was really cool the way that they team up in this movie. Like I like that rather than having, the unstoppable force meets the immovable object, they team up to, for a common goal, and they have that level of respect for each other. I thought was really cool.
I thought it was interesting. You said confusing, and he was a little bit confusing because you spend most of the movie not knowing if you should be rooting for him or not. Like you are like skeptically rooting for him, but it's like, I don't know if do I really trust this guy? I feel like I do.
Right.
Yeah. Right. It's like he's kind of got some beef with our protagonist here. So I feel like I shouldn't like him, but I also, the way we meet him, he's kind of like you say, he's like effortlessly cool. Like it's kind of, he's more of a marksman and, up front with his skill, but it's hard not to think of like Han Solo, like when we meet him for the first time, it's like, oh, okay, this guy's like just cool, shooting Greedo, things like that. It's like, okay, we get that. It also kind of reminded me of, I think it's a Seven Samurai when they go to watch that guy like fight in the field, and he's like, oh, we need that guy. It's just like, that guy is so good that like there's no one else that's going to beat him at this thing. And I think that's kind of what we get from the Colonel. It's like, oh, he's so confident. Like he knows there's like 5 guys here. He's like, I don't care. Like I can take all of them. It's like, okay, this guy is legit. It's kind of cool to see people like that and see it like backed up for sure. Matt, how about you? What's your elevator pitch?
I really liked, I liked the scene where he's stacking up the bodies, making an accounting of his body count. And to those youngins out there, body count means something different back then. Okay.
That's very true.
Clint Eastwood's not getting down with anybody in this movie. So if you're looking for Clint Eastwood and his body count in this movie, you're going to get a completely different movie. But
except I guess there was a scene shot where he slept with like the innkeeper's wife, the one that like really liked him a lot, but it's like a deleted scene and they just like got rid of it. But I guess they shot it at some point, which was like, that felt like it never got paid off in the movie. So I was like, what is happening here? So it makes sense they shot it at one point, but they didn't include it.
It's in the Clint vault.
Yeah, it's in the Clint vault. It's just for him.
And there it shall stay.
Yeah.
That's probably why they shot it. It was probably in his contract.
That would have been my elevator pitch.
That was it. Yeah. Find me the footage.
Clint's body count. Well, I'm of course referring to the other body count where he's basically stacking the bodies in the wagon, which is already just like a weird shot. Like
it's insane.
But
and like I couldn't help but think like those are gonna fall out. Like at least 3 of those bodies are gonna fall out. These roads are so bumpy. There's no shocks on this wagon. Like none of those are staying in that wagon.
It's just interesting how matter of fact it was. It's like, okay, we did our work here. Now just throw the bodies in the wagon.
Yeah.
Good days.
I thought about that as he's like, where do you take these? Number one, like what's the delivery point here? And if you run into anybody like on the trail, it's just like, don't worry, I just got 8 guys back here. Like it's so
pass
weird,
a family.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's fine. But to your point, Tyler, too, like his 2 biggest earners were the 2 that were put on there the laziest. Just like those are the first 2 guys falling out. Like you gotta like put the bridge up, like close them in there. But
I want to see him tie them down.
I mean,
exactly. Like that's 15 grand back there.
Despite the fact that he's a bounty hunter and he does this for money, I get the sense that he doesn't really care about money all that much. Yeah. And maybe it's just the confidence knowing he's like, I can go anywhere and get it. It's no big deal.
Yeah. There's like an altruism side of him. Like I liken it sort of to the Mandalorian. There's like some parallels there too. There's a lot of this character and I feel like Pedro Pascal's performance as the Mandalorian, where I guess the Mandalorian really leans more into the altruism. Whereas this guy is, I mean, they're both clearly doing it for money, but on top of doing it as a job, like they seem to have some type of moral compass that they're trying to do the right thing. But no, he's stacking the bodies. He's counting them. He counts they count these guys throughout the movie. It's kind of funny. There's several counting scenes. Anyways, it all leads up to this one, I believe. And he's 1 body short and this guy comes up behind him and he shoots him. And then the Colonel from the sunset, and he has to be like already like a quarter mile away. He's like, hey, everything okay back there? And then like Clint doesn't even yell back to him. He's like, yeah, I thought I had a math problem or something.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this movie rules.
It's so good. And like, I mean, there are bigger continuity issues here, but yeah, like the Colonel is in like golden hour sunset pinks and reds. And then we cut to Clint and it is just like middle of the day.
Yeah.
Like, we're good. Okay,
the harsh
cool.
sun lines across his face from his hat.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, and I mean, think about that guy, but I mean, that happens all the time. I think in these kind of like, especially like superhero movies or whatever. It's like you see someone kill or beat up 10 people, and then one last guy's like, "I'm the one that can do it." It's like, dude, like you can't.
Like, get
you
away.
just killed 10
Like,
people. Like, just run away.
go see your
not gonna be able to
family.
beat him. Yeah, exactly. Like, enjoy these moments. But it's like,
You've
You know
already
what?
won. You're not in the wagon.
Yeah.
You won, dude. Like,
yeah,
get out of here.
Like, just get out of there. He's like, I'm just gonna, cock my gun really loudly right behind him. It's just so funny.
Why wouldn't you like try to pistol whip him or something? Like,
Yeah, I have no clue. It was, I don't know. Must have had
he would have had his
knife.
arm
Notes.
blown off.
Yeah,
If he attempted that.
yeah, that scene was great, but that back and forth, like you good. And also, I guess I didn't realize. I think for us, Clint Eastwood has always been old, for our demographic.
Mm-hmm.
And so to hear him call someone old man in the movie, I was like, how different are you guys in age? Like, I don't know that it's like that different, but also Clint Eastwood, I think he's just been like perpetually 70 years old my entire life. You know? Like,
that's how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you're just old forever. Yeah. I just looked it up. Lee Van Cleef was born in 1925, Clint Eastwood 1930. Like he's 5 years older than him. It's like, man, if you start calling Tyler and I old, then this is going to be the end.
All right, old man.
All right, old man, whatever.
I certainly am old.
It's like that. This is an Easter egg for Ethan, but it's like that character on Christmas with the Cranks that calls Tim Allen old man.
Shout out Ethan Simi. The person who did not get Christmas with the Cranks in our Christmas draft. Just a reminder.
Oh, well.
Just remind him of that. My scene is actually right before the stacking the bodies. And I just liked, I guess, the pace of it. Like it's probably like, it feels like a 10-minute scene, but it doesn't necessarily feel slow. It just feels intentional. But we get the whole, like when the chimes stop, it's the Colonel and El Indio, I think is the guy's name, like the main bad guy here.
Yeah.
And El Indio shoots the gun out of the Colonel's hand, and then he pulls out the chime. And it's like, all right, when this stops, like you pick up your gun and we'll shoot. And we've seen him do this before in the movie. And obviously he's like faster than anybody whose gun is on the ground. So he kills him. But it was kind of cool. Like as the chimes are winding down and we go through the whole thing. It's like 40 seconds to a minute. Like we just we're there throughout it all. And then we just got so many cool, like split diopter scenes in this movie where all of a sudden like Clint's hand comes in with the other chime or the other locket. And it's like, the chimes are going off and then just kind of setting it up. So it's more of a fair fight, where he walks over, he's like, the chimes are still going technically. So you can't like shoot each other and, gives the Colonel his gun, all that kind of stuff. I really liked the pace of it. Like I said, I can't think of another word besides intentional, but it was just very much like at his speed. And it heightened up the drama. Like the drama's already going, but it's almost like a reset and it's just like elevated a little more. But I think obviously we know the good guys are going to win anyway, but once the Colonel has like a gun actually not on the ground, it's like, oh, we've seen him. Like he's so fast. He's faster than everybody in this whole movie. So yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed that scene quite a bit. A lot of cool split diopter stuff we got here where just everything's in focus, like super up close to the camera and all that kind of stuff. But that was one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie for sure.
Yeah, the pace of that is that's spot on. Like I felt like it was like I don't know if you guys used to blow stuff up when you were kids, make your own fireworks and stuff like that. I certainly did. But like you never quite knew if it was gonna work, you know what I mean? Like you weren't ever quite sure if it was actually gonna go off. And like it felt like you had like a homemade M80 under a bucket in your circle. And I don't mean to be so specific because I certainly never did this, but
never.
But
it's just like you're just it's gonna happen. You know that this gunfight's about to happen, and you're pretty sure that the good guys are gonna win. At least one of them. Probably at least Clint Eastwood, right? But the way it just that chime keeps going and the cuts back and forth and just it was when I say it was dialed up to 11, like that's what this scene was to me. It was like the whole movie, the whole team up, the whole everything was just leading up to this one point, and they milked it to the exact right point because there was getting to a point where I was like, okay, like, come on, like let's go. Like I was like getting anxiety. And then finally, boom, the burst happens and it's over, and it's over so fast, which is really cool. So yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. Another scene that was similar to that for me, and I want to mention it, was when Eastwood and the Colonel, I don't know what his name is in this. Monco is Eastwood's name. When Monco and the Colonel finally have their little showdown, and they earn each other's respect. The scene where Clint shot his hat away from him.
Oh my god!
Like, I was like, that could have been an SNL skit. Like, that could have gone on for another 15 minutes. I was like, I was rolling laughing and also like wildly interested. I was like, there's no fucking way he's gonna shoot that hat again. There's no way. And every time he did it, I was like, this is fucking bananas. How have I never seen this before? And that would have been my pick, but I just would really want someone to see that.
Yeah.
In the context of the movie. And then obviously the Colonel gets his revenge in that same scene. But it was just like, this is unbelievable. It was that scene in Family Guy where he hits his shin on the fire hydrant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
over and over again.
That whole thing.
I want to mention another SNL thought that I had, but before I do, I just want to go back to the standoff that Ben mentioned, and like you said, like the intentionality of it. What's cool is that like we've already seen an intense standoff in the last Eastwood movie. It's like, and we've already seen standoffs in every Western movie. It's like, how do we mix this up? How do we do it different? And that's where like the chime thing really, like bringing that in, really feels unique and really cool. Just like another little layer there that makes it different, makes it stand out. Because I don't know, right? I really enjoyed this movie through and through, but I don't know how much it stands out to me compared to the other Clint Eastwood movies I've seen. But now I'm always just going to remember that standoff specifically because of the chime and the locket. And all of that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Before you go to your SNL bit, just one last thing about the standoff. Like it was this cool, it almost felt like this weird like bounty hunter code or something like that, because before, the two of them are waiting for everyone to show up, he's like, Indio is mine. It's like, okay, cool. Like you get to kill Indio, whatever. And there's still like opportunities where Clint could have, or Monco could have shot him. But instead it's just like, all right, I'll come help you with this. I want to make sure you get what you want out of that. And I thought that was really cool. You know, whatever kind of respect there is between these two guys. It's just like, yeah, Clint easily could have just taken him out, but it's like, nope, I'm going to let you, like, you might lose the duel. Like, I don't think you will, but this is what you wanted. So I'm going to give that to you. So I really liked that. And then, maybe one of my bigger issues with the movie was like discovering the intention behind the Colonel's connection to the locket. For the longest time, I thought, like, I mean, if you're listening, you've either seen it or you don't care, but we get these flashbacks of Indio when he's younger, and he sees this couple on a bed and they have this locket. I'm assuming that's his girlfriend or something like that that's in there. Like if she's cheating on him, I don't know exactly, but he shoots the guy and, that's just the end of the dude. But throughout the whole movie, I was like, did he live? Like, is the Colonel the guy? Like, they're not really telling us anything about like why he cares or why he has this locket. It's like, did that guy not die? And they're just going to tell us later. And then we get the lockets together at the end, and Clint Eastwood, like, just very heavy handedly, like, a lot of familiarity right there. He's like, yeah, it's my sister. That's just like, that's it. Like, oh, okay, cool. I guess that was it. Like, moving on. It's just like, I thought there was just going to be like some bigger thing. But he's just like, oh, you look like the lady in the locket. It's like, yeah, brother, sister. See ya. Like, okay, bye. I don't know.
All right, later. I got a sunset to ride off into.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you keep the money. I got my locket. So I don't know. I thought
that exchange. So I think about this is like my dream SNL bit, or I guess one of my dream SNL bits. I was thinking about during the movie, but you have that sketch, and this actually isn't Saturday Night Live, of John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell doing their version of the Bing Crosby, David Bowie,
White Christmas.
Yeah. And they were essentially just doing it word for word for the most part, but then adding in some some agitation with each other, which is funny. Well, I had the same sort of vision when Clint's trying to get his gun back from Colonel after the duel. And I just imagine like Will Ferrell as Clint Eastwood and John C. Reilly with his gun. And just like an aggressive exchange between them. Like, oh man.
So good.
I would love that.
Yeah. That hat.
Deleted scene from Step Brothers.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So when that was happening, I was like, these hats are torn to fucking shreds. Like,
I know.
Come on. Like, I know we don't see like blood spatter. We don't see like actually like there's no gun, whatever. There's gun violence, but you don't see like the
there's hardly any. It's like
you see some holes.
When the girl,
you see a few holes.
When the girl shoots herself,
I mean, like,
and then that last like the stacking part, like that's some of the only blood we see.
But that's what and then these hats, there's like 2 holes in each guy's hat. It's like these hats are blown to smithereens. Like they are, these are shreds. It was so funny to me. But it works. I don't know why. It's just like maybe it's because it feels like you're watching a play or something. So like you forgive it, the suspension of disbelief, all that stuff. Somehow this movie keeps pulling it off. Like it makes there's no denying that you're watching something. You know, you're watching a piece of art, and I don't know. It's cool. I like this movie.
I just like that's how they earned each other's respect.
Yeah.
You know, like, because then afterwards, like the hats are, I think, hanging up and they're just like sitting at the bar together at a table. It's like, okay, we can shoot hats. Like we can be friends now. Like
I could kill you if I wanted to, but I don't.
The Colonel's, I mean, what the Colonel did, like what Clint did was funny, you know, and annoying, but like what the Colonel did was like, oh, that's actually super impressive. But along the lines of the Colonel, I think I want to get into our Apollonia Award, which is essentially, you know, it's the best supporting character, something that like really stands out when you think about the movie, much like Apollonia when it comes to the movie Purple Rain. So I just kind of want to talk about these characters, and if you have anyone in particular that kind of stole the show for you or anything, you know, for example, Helm's Deep, it doesn't have to be a person. It could be a place, as we've established before. So anything at all that you want to be your Apollonia Award. Matt, I'm going to throw it to you first.
Oh, mine's gotta be El Paso. Gotta be El Paso. No.
That bank, that white bank in the middle of the town.
Like, well, it's funny you say that because apparently the town of El Paso still stands in Spain and they call it Little Hollywood. I was reading the trivia here.
That's cool.
That's cool. People liked it enough that they kept it around, and I think it's a thing you can go visit. So
sounds like we have a 3 Films and Podcast field trip to take.
Yeah.
Hey.
Join our patron to fund us going to Little Hollywood.
We'll take a picture with you with your name, you know, with us.
Yeah, exactly.
No, mine's got to be Colonel. You know, you have a character like Clint, and you have someone who like how do you get someone to come in and match his presence and match his intensity? And they were able to do that. And I feel like going back on an earlier thing that Tyler said, like there was something confusing about his character just because he does come in with like this dominance as a total alpha. And
he's for sure supposed, like you the train scene alone, you're like, this guy's the villain. This is for sure the villain of this film. And like, how could he not be? It's so cool that he's not. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So it was a cool, I guess, subversion of expectations with him. And yeah, I just love the intensity that he brought. Him being something of an anti Clint Eastwood in some ways, but also being his equal in other ways. And so, he's mine. Enough said.
Yeah. Shouts to the Colonel. I mean, I don't know. We have to pick other people because or else we wouldn't have a segment here. But I don't know how you don't pick the Colonel. You know, like, truth be told, he is my pick. But I do want to shout out. Can't remember the actor's name that played El Indio. I thought he was really cool. I thought El Indio was really cool. So I wanted to shout him out. But I think so. This actually, like, this pick for me is a person and a place. I loved. They call them the old. They call. Yeah. Well, there was things in the house. Well, yeah, trains are things. Yeah, person, place, and a thing. No, the old prophet in his house by the train tracks.
Oh yeah.
I loved it. I don't know what it is. There's something about a shitty house and a train that goes by that just does it for me. You know, like we see it in Blues Brothers. We see it. There's a scene in Seven. There's a couple other times I can't think of right now, but there's like this weird romanticism I have for like shitty living conditions in movies. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And a character and especially a character like him or like the Blues Brothers, where it's their place, it's their weird little hideout, and it's just this strange, not foreboding, but just a place you wouldn't want to be, but for some reason they're there. And I don't know, there's just, I can't really articulate it, but I always dig that. I always am interested by that. And this character was really funny. I loved his like anti-futurism rants and how much he hates these trains. And I don't know, I think I just have an affinity for people who are so stubborn that they like refuse to change their life regardless of how bad it was, just out of principle, right? Like, Ben, you and I have a buddy, Matt, I don't know if you know him, but he lived in some lofts that they built around a person's house. This person wouldn't sell their home, and the lofts just built these like, you know, high dollar luxury lofts around his house. And it's still there to this day. Like, and he would make a point to like, he put a bathtub in the backyard and he would like just go and hang out in the bathtub naked. Like, it's like, it's my house, I'll do it, you know, like, I just think that's so funny.
Yeah.
like shouts to that guy, like standing on his principles. He
come on the pod,
sell
like
to these developers.
Yeah.
I could imagine he'd be quite the guest. So I don't know. That's what I'll do here. I'll say just that whole old prospector, old prophet, his whole deal, the character, his house, the train rattling by, all that stuff. Yeah. And imagine how absolutely batshit insane you'd be if you got woken up every 2 hours by a train.
I cannot imagine. Yeah, but I love his resilience. He's like, I'm not leaving. Like, they're not going to defeat me. It's like, okay, you might literally go crazy, but whatever, man. Like, if this is what you want to do. Yeah, I think it's an awesome choice. Yeah, along the lines of El Indio, as you mentioned, that was a great performance. One of the other scenes I loved, the other scene I was thinking about talking about, was when he tells the story about like the guy who made the vault and all that, you know. And, right. You know, he's like, oh, and he put it inside the cabinet. It's not actually in the vault. And he's like telling it to the band of, you know, robbers and stuff like that. And it was pretty like captivating to hear what he was talking about. And then we find out, you know, kind of calls back to just earlier in the scene where he got broken out of jail and he shoots the guy that he's in the cell with, you know. It's like, what, why'd you do that, man? Like, let him go too. Like, you know, you get out, but then we find out as he's telling the story, he's like, oh yeah, the guy I shared a cell with was the one who told me about this. So I know where all this money is. So let's go get it. I'm like, oh, that was a really cool scene. Yeah. And everyone's just like really into it. But I mentioned it earlier
in lieu of a team up scene, right? Like,
yeah,
usually in a movie like this, and to setting up the heist, we get the team up, but this instead, we get like the lore of it's sort of like half of Ocean's 11. We don't get the team up happened off screen, but we get like the plan and the why of it all.
Exactly. This is the scene like when we're at Ruben's house or whatever, and it's just like, now we're all going to explain why we're going into this vault. So so I just want to shout out that scene, but I mentioned it earlier. I just think Clint Eastwood really kind of elevated himself in this movie from the last one. Really enjoyed his performance quite a bit. And yeah, I don't know, like, as we've been talking about that house and the bank and all that, they really made so much of this seem real. It's kind of crazy because they did this on $600,000 budget, of which Clint Eastwood basically got like 10%, which is, you know, great. But it's like, I can't imagine they did this with like, I know it's a lot of money, but like $500,000 to make a feature film is not a ton. You know, they pulled it off. They grossed 15 million off of that, which is kind of cool. Awesome. But
holy shit.
I think that really, again, just kind of speaks to Clint and carrying this role in these movies. Obviously was help from Sergio Leone and Ennio Morricone as well. But so I'm going to give it to Clint. I think he did a wonderful job. I think now let's get into the Rushmore.
These are OR scrubs. Oh, are they?
We're going to do heist movies. And I think this isn't necessarily like a heist movie, so to speak, but there's a heist that's kind of the center around what we're doing. So that's why I want to talk about it. Like there's other things we could have done, like unlikely team ups or whatever, but I just wanted to talk about heist movies because why not? Yeah. So I think as a collective, the three of us would agree, as we've just talked about it, like Ocean's 11, is probably the best one or our favorite one, amongst the three of us. We did a recast on it a while back. We just really love that movie. So I feel like that one's a lock in there. But I want each of us to pick one more heist movie to complete our Rushmore Mountain. Matt, do you want to go first?
Yes, I do. I've got to go with a movie that has Channing Tatum, Daniel Craig, Seth MacFarlane, and none other
is not like the other.
none other than our guy Adam Driver.
Indeed.
And I'm going with Logan Lucky. We've brought it up a couple times on the pod. It's a pleasant surprise. I don't think it got a ton of buzz, but everyone I know who's seen it really likes it. I recommend it. Great heist movie.
Really good heist movie. Riley Keough, we get Katie Holmes in it as well.
That's right.
Honestly, might make my Soderbergh Rushmore. Like it's a really good movie.
So I have a very strange relationship with this movie in that you guys talk about it all the time. And it's something that I feel like I should see. And not only that, it's something that I feel like I watched recently and I have zero recollection of it. Like I'm literally going on Letterboxd right now to see. Yeah, okay, so I watched it. This is incredible. I watched it. I rated it 4 stars and I marked it as liked on Letterboxd. I have zero recollection of this movie. Like not at all.
Oh man, I love that.
Like I don't know what. I was living in Vegas at the time. So
the memory must have stayed in Vegas.
It must have. So hold on, I got to go through and like try to find my review here. I got to see how I felt about this movie.
Okay.
Because this is great. This is pretty fun. I watched it on April 23rd.
Nice.
Oh man. Okay, cool. So I said, hell yeah, Appalachian Ocean's 11. I love it. I might need to amend my unexpected musical moment Rushmore list. And I have no idea what I'm talking about. So what a treat for me to go back and figure out what I'm talking about here. Wow.
You could answer your own Rushmore question. You could watch a movie again for the first time and not remember it. So.
Wow. This is incredible. What a moment for your guy. Well, great pick, Matt.
Thank you.
I apparently agreed.
You agreed.
4 stars.
April Tyler agreed
notes.
with me.
My favorite part is that I marked it as liked. Not only did I give it 4 stars, but I liked the
which
movie.
Is higher praise. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, cool. So I had originally on this document put Point Break, but
Shout out Point
now
Break.
I feel like I can't pick that anymore for stuff because it's like either I can as a bit, or I've got to like get out of this. So at this moment right now, looking through lists, gosh, there's a lot of really great movies that come up as heist movies on the internet. We covered The Killing, which is a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to do it. I'm going to say Inception.
Okay.
Not only is it like, as far as Nolan movies go, or frankly, any movie really, I don't have as much of an aversion to Nolan as a lot of people seem to have. Like, I feel like Nolan's like pretty divisive among, like movie heads or movie buffs. Like, you like if you like Nolan, it's like, oh, you're a Nolan bro or whatever. And like,
yeah,
I get that to some degree, but I also think it's kind of stupid. I think he makes really cool, fun movies, and this is one of them. Like, it's a dream heist, man. It's like, I don't know, like what else do you want? Like Matt, your whole thing about your elevator pitch is you want to show something you've never seen before. Well, literally, up
That's
until
Nolan's
Inception
brand.
came out, we'd never seen anything like this before. And that's totally his brand. And he usually pulls it off. For me, I mean, Ben, I know you didn't quite like Interstellar that much, and I know that your opinion hasn't really changed all that much.
Or aged well. Just kidding.
Shots. Shade. I don't know. I just like, much like how you hesitated to pick Infinity War for battle scenes.
Yeah.
Like I have that same strange aversion just because like I know the backlash that Nolan gets, and I guess I don't really care, but it's whatever. Inception. It's going on the list.
I love it. We're interviewing for a spot at my company, and just to like not necessarily break the tension, but to stop talking about work stuff, I asked him, I was like, what's your favorite movie? Whatever. And the dude was like, man, I really love Nolan movies and Tarantino. And like my initial thought was like, dude, that's such a fucking like bro answer. But I was like, but I love all this too. So, like,
I know that's what I was thinking too.
Like,
it's so funny because even just hearing you tell that story, I'm like, oh, of course, bro. But I'm like, wait, I love both of those.
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
I don't think those would be my only two that I were to mention.
Yeah.
But even if I did, whatever. It's, I don't know.
Yeah, people can like what they like. Yeah, we're not trying to like gatekeep anything, but it's just so funny. Just like, all right, man, I guess. But it's like, I own all of those movies too, even the one I don't like. So yeah, I get it. Mine is another movie that I love because it's got Jimmy Smits. What more do you need? You got Jimmy Smits.
Give me more Jimmy Smits.
Yeah, famous Jimmy Smits movie, Rogue One, a Star Wars story. We got our real guy though, Ben Mendelsohn's in it. Love him. Riz Ahmed, Diego Luna, Felicity Jones, who just like really owns this movie. Donnie Yen, like this, the cast here is fantastic. We haven't even talked about our man Mads Mikkelsen, but I love Rogue One. I think it's kind of maybe divisive, for people. It's a very it's a one story, so to speak. Like we know how this is going to end. There's only one way it can end. And I think some people didn't like it for that reason, but I loved it. And I thought it was really kind of cool as far as Star Wars lore goes. And it's like, why is there that one thing that can blow up the Death Star? It's like, well, now we know, like now that all makes sense. And I think they did a really good job of it. I think it's beautiful. I love it. I think Alan Tudyk as K2SO was hilarious. I just loved it. And again, it's like, it's kind of a get the band together and let's make this happen. I think I'm a sucker for those things. And this just got to be done in a super cool galaxy far, far away. So I love Rogue One. If you haven't seen it, go see it.
I love it too. What's funny about Rogue One is like, I saw it and loved it. And I'm a very big Star Wars apologist. Like I'm very easy, like as far as a diehard Star Wars fan goes, like very easy going with Star Wars. Like it has to be really rubbing me the wrong way for me not to like it. So, which is almost it. Like 90% of the stuff is just great to me. I was shocked that like most of the people that are like me that way, for whatever reason, like are indifferent or didn't like Rogue One. It's like, how?
Yeah.
I understand the people who like hate 90% of Star Wars, but it's like, I don't know.
They hate the thing they love.
Isn't it funny?
Exactly.
Like that's the Star Wars fan base right there.
They love it so much they hate it.
They hate it because no one else understands it the way that they understand it. So,
and more power to them. I loved Rogue One. Aren't we going to see this soon? The three of us?
Yeah, I think it's in the theaters right now.
Hell yeah!
Gotta take a birthday trip.
That's
Let's go
exciting.
see Rogue One.
Yeah, let's do it. I don't have near the connection to Star Wars that either of you do. I've seen most of it. I have most of the Star Wars stuff out there. I've seen, and I thought Rogue One was great. It was super fun. I don't know what's not to like, really. I think, I honestly don't really know. I mean, if it's not your bag, that's fine. But I'm just like, it doesn't really make sense to me. But do you, boo boo?
Yeah, I thought it was really, really good. Again, like just beautifully shot. Gareth Edwards did a really great job with that. So, Rogue One would close out the Rushmore. So Ocean's 11. And Logan Lucky will start with a couple Soderberghs, and then Rogue One, and not Point Break, but in our hearts, Point Break. But Inception is what's going to take it. So
doing one for the Nolan Bros. If you're a Nolan bro, like and subscribe.
Let us know in the comments, please.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
look, man, if you're a Nolan bro, like I love you. That's great.
Yeah.
No, we're a
awesome.
Nolan
He
bro
makes
friendly
good shit.
podcast.
Yeah, man.
And all you Tarantino heads complain about none of us picking Reservoir Dogs, because that also would have been a great heist movie. Very much like this one, where it's like it's kind of the center of the movie, but we don't really get to see a ton of it. So yeah, I love it. You guys have any other thoughts about For a Few Dollars More before we wrap up?
No, man, this movie's just cool. You know, like
it is pretty cool.
Go watch it.
It's just I get it. You know, it's not much else to say really. Like I see what all the fuss is about.
Ponchos, guns, sweaty faces.
Yeah, man.
What else do you want in a Western?
That's all you need.
I literally can't think of anything.
That's all that's required. Yeah. Thanks for listening. Join us next week as we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. I kind of like how these are going, because Matrix, like the first trilogy we did, I think the first movie is the best one. Lord of the Rings, the second trilogy we did, I think all of us kind of like Two Towers the most. And I have a feeling that the third trilogy here, the third movie, we're going to enjoy the most. I'm excited to finally check it out. Been on my list for a long time. Awesome. So join us next week as we talk about that and Ennio Morricone and whatever else comes up. See you later.
What did you think about the ride?
It was great. And apparently, I've never been on live television before, but apparently sometimes I don't watch the news because I'm a kid, and apparently Grandpa just gives me a remote after we watch the Powerball.